Now, Sylvia is a spiritual advisor and life coach with around 40 years of experience. During this time, she's assisted a variety of clients from all over the globe. Her next mission in life is to become a public speaker and to inspire a much larger audience. With her speech entitled Synchronicity or Confidence or Coincidence, it's Sylvia, everybody!
Synchronicity or coincidence. Those stand that know what synchronicity means. And sit. Stand those who know what coincidence means. And sit. That basically tells me that you're all still awake. Smoking. Most of us think that smoking is the biggest killer of today. What if I told you that sugar kills 3 times more people than smoking does? If I stood here with a donut, no one would say anything. In fact, you'd probably think, oh, she's got a sweet tooth. You actually wouldn't think that the sugar is the biggest killer of the modern day. It causes heart disease, it causes liver, to mention a few. Some doctors say that smoking causes infertility. And some say that it's alcohol and drugs. But some doctors say that infertility is the main cause of smoking. Well, I think that's a bit of a myth, because I've got 5 kids. And basically, back in the day, I'm not terribly proud of it, but I did smoke 60 fags a day. Back in the day. Okay, my children were wonderful, but I have to say, I did cheat a bit, because I was a bit of a workaholic. So I did have a nanny, and our nanny was called Tracy. She was an amazing person. The kids loved her, and she loved them. But she didn't have the most amazing past. Because back in her past, her mother and father died very early on. So she was fostered out, and she had 8 brothers and sisters dotted all over the place, but they were young enough to be adopted. But her greatest wish was to meet them, was to come back together again. So one weekend she decided we're going to have a camping weekend in the garden, which to me was a great idea, because normally the older children hugged the house, and we had sleeping bags all over the house. But this meant I actually got the house to myself for the weekend. How great is that? So the older set of children got together, and the younger set and put all the tents out and this and everything else. And the older ones did the barbecue, and the older ones invited all their friends over, because it went into alcohol a little bit later in the evening, as you know. My daughter's best friend was called Anna, and her boyfriend was called Danny. But Danny was quite a regular visitor to the house, but he didn't talk very much. So we didn't really kind of get to know him. But that weekend, while they were doing this organisation, Woman's Own phoned me. Well, back in the day, Woman's Own was a bit like Vogue is today. It was like a really high magazine and everybody read it and everybody bought it and things like that. Well, they asked me for this story. They wanted a story on psychics and missing people. Well, there I was walking around racking my brains. How was I going to do that? But I had done stories before for like Evening Mail, Express and Star. I've done Nottingham Radio. I'd done all them sittings. So I kind of had some idea of where I was going to write the story. But missing people had me at a bit of a disadvantage because I'd never really gone in that direction. However, that weekend, the children all got together. They were all like in their tents and everything else, but the older one started drinking a bit. As you know, melancholy kind of kicks in. And then they all start talking about their families. So the younger ones are throwing snails at each other and ghost stories as they do, that kind of thing. So they're over this side, and the older ones are over this side, and they all get the photographs out of their purses and, you know, their holidays and where they've been and this kind of thing. Well, I'm walking round the garden like this and I'm looking at the pictures, and to my utter amazement, Danny's pictures and Tracy's pictures, you would have said was from the same camera. So there I am looking at it thinking, this is going to change someone's life forever. If I say it, if I don't say it. So I'm walking about, and the hair's going up on the back of my head, and I've got the shakes slightly because it's such a big deal. But I thought better of it, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring them together. So I brought Danny from one side, Tracy from the other, sat them together, and I said, perhaps you'd like to talk, but bring your pictures while you do. So they're kind of looking at me, and of course Danny doesn't talk, bearing in mind, he doesn't talk to anyone. But he'll say hello, and he'll be a very polite young man, but nothing too drastic. But have a guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It turns out that Danny and Tracy were brother and sister. So there I am, I'm jumping for joy, thinking, I've got my missing story. And they're even going to get paid for it. Synchronicity or coincidence? Thank you.